Hi, I'm Colin, and today I'm going to show you how to retain a slope using a segmental wall system. Step one, like any other hardscape project, is going to be design. Now, it might not be as beneficial to have a nice drawing of the front end of your retaining wall as you would a flat project like paving stones or something like that. But getting your measurements for length and height is going to help you decide and influence what type of material you're going to need and how much you're going to need of them. We're going to be using Murata Wall for this retaining wall today. Murata Wall is a great product because it's an 8x16 open cell wall block, which is easy to handle, and it can accomplish smaller height retaining walls and taller height retaining walls. So step two for this project is going to be layout. The nice thing is we're going to leave this existing failing retaining wall up as a reference point for both our depth of excavation below the wall and behind the wall. So all we have to do is take our tape measure at this lowest point of the wall here. We know the wall at the finished height is going to be around 24 inches. Nice part too is we need about 30 inches overall depth behind this reference line because it gives us 12 inches of block and about 18 inches of gravel backfill. So we can measure behind it, take some white marking paint, mark a line behind it, and then we can get on to the next step. Step three for this project is going to be get it square. Now we have an existing failing retaining wall that is going to be our reference for straight with where our new wall is going to be. It's not perfect, but it'll be close enough. After we excavate, because it'll be beneficial to have this here to reduce the amount of erosion, then we can put in our straight reference line. Now, if you don't have an existing retaining wall, which is true for most scenarios, you can put up a string line that's going to be square with a house or structure if you have one nearby, or if you have an odd angled fence line or something like that, you're going to want to go straight with that. It's just beneficial to have some sort of a reference line, that way you don't overdig or underdig. Step four for this project is going to be set the grade. What you have to do is find the lowest point in your wall if you have varying terrain like we do here, and then establish a finished height of the wall that works throughout your entire project because it's going to be level when we're done. We know that 21 inches from the lowest point is going to give us a good height for the existing paving stone stuff to slope towards. So we take that 21 inches with our laser transit here, we mark that from the ground, the lowest point here, then we add that to 12 inches, which is going to give us 6 inches of embedded block below the soil and 6 inches of compacted gravel to set our base block on. And it gives us about 33 more inches from the top of our surface for our entire excavation at the lowest point. So with the finished grade of our wall established, we can move on to the next step, which is excavate. We're going to be starting at the lowest end of our wall to ensure that we have proper depth of embedment of the block and gravel base at the bottom, and then work our way up. We're also going to be digging behind the wall, that white line we marked out in the layout step. This is really easy with a piece of equipment, but is totally achievable by hand. When you're excavating for a retaining wall, it's always intended to be level, as the end result of a retaining wall will be level. When you're working with a varying terrain or an inclining terrain, sometimes you'll be excavating too much. It's only necessary to embed the bottom course of your wall at least 6 inches at your lowest point. But as the terrain inclines, you may be burying the 6 inches of the second course of your block. When that happens, you can step up your grade in your excavation, 8 inches, which is the height of a block, to reduce the amount of excavation and hopefully promote some efficiency in your project. So after removing as much loose dirt as possible from our excavation, we're completely finished. We can move on to step 6, which is going to be gravel base. Before we start bringing in our gravel though, it's going to be super beneficial and almost required to insert some geofilter fabric. What this is going to do is basically going to create a barrier between the dirt and the gravel for both the bottom of our block and the backfill, so that soil never migrates into our gravel and causes any contamination or expanding and contracting through the freeze-thaw cycles. Once we have that filter fabric in place, we can start bringing our gravel base. We need at least 6 inches of compacted 3/4 miles gravel below the base course of our wall. With our compacted gravel base completely laid, we can move on to step 7, which is setting our base blocks. It's a lot easier if you have a nice straight reference using a string line. That way everything looks nice and consistent. We'll also be using some spirit levels to set each individual block level in each direction. You just gotta hit it with a hammer to persuade that bubble. And it's nicer to use a longer level too to check it with the previous blocks to maintain consistency. After that, you'll have a nice flat and straight base course for your retaining wall. After we finish setting our base course, we can move on to step 8, which is going to be filling our cells of our blocks, backfilling our wall, and then stacking our subsequent courses, okay? Filling the cells is super easy. All you have to do is fill it up to the top, sweep off the excess. It does not need to be compacted. When it comes to backfilling the blocks, all you have to do is do 4-inch lifts, compacted with our jumping jacks. We have lots of good compaction. You want to make sure that you integrate a perforated pipe. It is a little bit easier or cleaner if you have a Wall Drain Pro. It sits perfectly with an 8-inch block. We're gonna put that at the bottom of our project, or the lowest point, exit it through the blocks. Then we're gonna have a little bit of slope on that, at least a 0.5% to ensure we have fall and grade to where water drains easier. After that, we can move on to the next step. So with our perf pipe in place, our wall is backfilled, the cells of all the blocks are also filled, we can move on to step 9, which is going to be capping our blocks. Western Lock as a manufacturer has a lot of different wall cap options. For this particular project, the homeowner is never going to see this wall. It's going to be behind a fence. So we're just going to go with our Plaza Stone pewter. It's going to function perfectly because all we needed to do is cover up these open cells. You take a brush, clean off your blocks, take some adhesive. This is Surebond 20. We like flexible adhesive. Put some of that down. Take your capstone, place it, move on to the next one. After that, you can finish. We finished gluing all of our caps on our wall, so now we can move on to the final step. All we have to do is take our filter fabric and put it back over our gravel backfill. Wherever it wasn't quite long enough, we just took a new piece. We're gonna put it there and then overlap it so we have a good barrier between our gravel and our dirt. We're gonna do some landscaping, finish the paving stone patio that we pulled up, and you have a finished project.